finished reading.
I have to mute because it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to let Brenna open the meeting and then we'll get started. All right, Brenna, yeah, you were muted just now.
Oh, it didn't look like it. Good to know. All right, so it's 6 o'clock, and I'm going to call the meeting to order and pass it over to Kyle.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the April 16th, 2020 Historic Resources Commission meeting. My name is Kyle Covey and I'll be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting. With me here is Lynn Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. She will work alongside Commissioner Buchanan, who is on remote video, to facilitate the meeting proceedings. Currently, I have everyone muted so we can talk through the general ground rules for tonight's meeting. This is our first attempt at conducting a virtual Historic Resources Commission meeting. Please be patient as we navigate this new format. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and public access channel 25. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found in the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. This will make it easier for everyone to hear the meeting. Just remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. In the menu, you can also turn your camera on or off by clicking the video icon, which is located next to the microphone icon. For the purposes of this public meeting, please keep your video on for the duration. If you are participating by phone, you can enter *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Somewhere on your Zoom screen, you will also see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker. Gallery view tiles all of the meeting participants. A few reminders to ensure that the provisions of the Kansas Open Meetings Act are met. Commissioners, you must state your name and title each time you speak. Members of city staff must also state their name and title each time they speak. I would also ask that applicants and members of the public identify themselves each time before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. Individuals who signed up in advance to provide public comments remotely will be called upon by name. When you are called on, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The chair will then call for in-person public comment for those who are physically present. Staff will direct you to the podium to speak while following social distancing and safety protocols. All motions will need to be stated clearly. After a motion is made and seconded, the chair will call on each commissioner individually to provide their vote. The chair will then need to announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. I want to again remind everyone to please mute yourself when you are not speaking. And now I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Let's start the meeting with general business, attendance.
This is something new that you'll see on your agendas from now on. We're going to start having it available to you and the public, showing the meeting and who is in attendance at that meeting, just for informational purposes. There's no action required.
Okay. This is Commissioner Buchanan. We're going to move to B, communications. B1, receive communications from other commissions.
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. There are no communications to add to the packet. There were some that were added earlier today, and you should have those with your agenda item.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Green. Is there any disclosure of ex parte communications? Okay, I do have one. This is Commissioner Buchanan. You may or may not have noticed in your packet that I was copied on an email from Paul Werner in regards to 925 Mississippi. I did not reply to that email and left it up to Lynn Zollner to handle his questions. I just want to be clear that I did not reply. If there's no other ex parte communications, we will move on to B3, declaration of abstentions. I don't see anybody else motioning. I do want to include one for myself. This is Commissioner Buchanan. For full disclosure, it was about 10 years ago, I did participate in a research of 715 New York. Some of that information was included in the Living in East Lawrence brochure, which was included in tonight's packet for that item. So I just want to be full disclosure. It was like 10 years ago, and I had nothing to do with what was compiled for tonight, other than they used some of the research from back then. Moving on to item 4, any committee reports?
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. There are no committee reports for this evening.
Fantastic. This is Commissioner Buchanan. We're going to move on to C, consent agenda and the action summaries. The first item, C1A, action summary for November 15th, 2018. At this time, I do want to remind everyone that if you are not at that meeting, you will need to abstain from that item. So if you were not at the meeting or you were not on the commission in November 15th, 2018, you will abstain from the vote when I roll call. Is everybody sure if you were there or not? Does anybody have any questions of whether you were in attendance?
I do not recall.
Brenda, repeat the date.
November 15th, 2018. In the action summary, it lists those who were in attendance. Those listed include Irby, Evans, Fry, and Buchanan. So if I did not just say your name, you need to abstain when I roll call. Clear as mud? Okay. I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Hold on, just pardon me. I had to unmute myself. So
Who is this speaking?
this is Chad Foster, Commissioner. We're going to do them individually, right? A, B, and C, the groupings.
Correct.
And so am I looking at?
Just A. This is Commissioner Buchanan. Just A.
Okay. Trying to negotiate the PDF here.
So those in
Okay,
attendance.
which was before I was on it. Okay, awesome. Okay, thanks. Got it.
This is Commissioner Buchanan, and I'm going to make a motion to approve the action summary of November 15th, 2018.
This is Commissioner Fry. I will second that motion.
In order. Dave Evans, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Irby,
Yes.
you abstain. You weren't on the commission. Or wait, no, you were on that list.
I was
You're right.
there.
Yes, okay. Yep. Sorry, wrong list.
Okay.
Commissioner Meyer,
I abstain.
Commissioner Foster,
Abstain.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Buchanan. Motion is carried with 2 abstentions, Commissioner Meyer and Commissioner Foster. This is Commissioner Buchanan. Moving on to item C1B, the 2019 action summaries. I moved that we actually defer these until next month.
This is Dave Evans. I agree.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. At this time, I will roll call. Commissioner Evans?
Commissioner
Yes.
Buchanan, this is Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. You need to have a motion. If you want to defer, it would need a second, and then you would do a roll call vote to defer the action summaries. So you need a motion on the floor.
I guess my motion was missed. Okay, I move that we defer item C.1B until next session.
This is Dave Evans. I second the motion.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I will now take roll call. Commissioner Evans,
Yes for deferral.
Commissioner Irby,
Yes for deferral.
Commissioner Meyer,
I'm sorry, I was just a little confused. What's the reason?
we would have to vote. Oh, this is Commissioner Buchanan. We would have to vote on each one of these months separately. And I don't want to take the time to do that tonight, to call out each month in a roll call.
Okay, that's fine. We just have deferred it before, so that's just why I was asking. So
Okay, yeah.
I'm in favor.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry.
Yes.
Passes unanimously and motion carries. Moving on to C.1, C, January 16th, 2020 Action Summary. Are there any questions?
I need to defer. This is Dave Evans. I need to recuse myself. I wasn't present at the meeting.
Okay. Any other questions or abstentions?
I will move to approve the January 16th action summary.
Second.
That was Chad Foster.
Commissioner Irby seconded.
Sorry, Commissioner Irby, Commissioner.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I will now take roll call. Commissioner Evans,
Recuse.
Commissioner Irby,
Aye, yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry.
Yes.
Myself, aye. Motion carries, passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to administrative approvals. This is Commissioner Buchanan. We will start with C.2A, Agenda Item Report 20-203. Are there any questions for staff? Hearing no questions, I make a motion that we approve the agenda item or the report.
Irby, Commissioner, I second.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I will now take roll call. Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Irby,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
myself, aye. Motion carries to approve the administrative approvals in the report 20-203. Motion carries. Item number C.2B. Again, administrative approvals for agenda item report 20-246. Is there any questions? Hearing and seeing no questions, I make a motion that we approve the administrative approval and the report 20-246.
Dave Evans, second.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I'll now roll call. Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Irby,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
myself, aye. Motion carries unanimously. This is Commissioner Buchanan. Is there open public comment? Item D.
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Yes, you need to open public comment. We don't have anyone registered for public comment for the Zoom meeting, but you have to open it and make sure there's no one here, and then you would close public comment like you do at your typical meeting.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. We're now going to open the meeting to public comment. And we've already confirmed that there's no one here, nobody registered to speak. So I will close public comment and move on to item E, public hearing items. E1 is DR 20-00046.
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator for the city. This is 925 Mississippi Street. The property is located in the Oriad neighborhood Design Overlay District in District 3 and is subject to the Oriad Neighborhood Design Guidelines. The applicant proposes to demolish the structure located on the property at 925 Mississippi Street. A new structure will be constructed on the same property. The 1,417 square foot new structure will be 2 stories in height with a gabled roof and lap siding. A gable roof porch is centered on the main facade. A parking tray will be located off the alley. Pages 3 and 4 of the agenda item packet give a full description of the project. The primary structure located at 925 Mississippi Street was constructed circa 1920 according to the Douglas County Appraiser's Office. However, the Kansas Historic Resources Inventory identifies the structure as a National Folk gable front vernacular structure that was built circa 1880. A rear addition is shown on the 1927 Sanborn map, and the north addition is identified as a circa 1970s construction. The current project is a request to demolish the structure and build a new structure in a similar location. Demolition of historic structures is rarely positive for a neighborhood because it destroys the relationships between structures, landscape features, and open space, and as a result, the overall character of the area is diminished. When possible, staff prefers rehabilitation to retain structures and their relationship to the patterns within the character of an identified area in the historic overlay district. If demolition is approved, it removes the opportunity for a future owner to rehabilitate the existing structure. Staff rarely recommends demolition of primary structures. Historically, this structure on the site contributed to the character of the overlay district. The scale, massing, site placement, height, directional expression, percentage of building coverage to site, setbacks, roof shapes, rhythm of openings, and sense of entry of the structure continue to contribute to the character of the overlay district. The poor condition of this structure can be attributed to fire damage and neglected and deferred maintenance and care for the structure. The decline of the structure has been ongoing for some time. Historic Resources staff has not viewed the interior of the structure. Demolition of structures is outlined in Chapter 4, Section D of the Oriad Neighborhood Design Guidelines. The majority of the section distinguishes the demolition of structures to those that are character defining for the area. When identifying character defining structures, architectural integrity and condition must also be a part of the analysis in addition to the architectural style and age of the structure. The determination for the character defining status for demolition of this structure is challenging. The existing overall appearance of the structure suggests that it's character defining for the district, although there is a circa 1970 addition on the north side of the primary portion of the structure. A structural analysis and cost replacement analysis was submitted to determine the extent of the fire damage of the structure. The analysis shows that the rehabilitation of this property may be feasible. The exterior of the original part of the structure appears to be in fair condition. However, the fire and smoke damage to the structure may necessitate the majority of the interior of the structure and the west addition of the structure to be replaced. Demolishing the interior of the structure may not be able to remove the smoke damage to the entire structure. Staff is of the opinion that in this particular case, the damage to the structure may warrant demolition. If this were a listed property, staff would likely not recommend demolition of the structure. Pages 25 and 26 in your packet, your agenda packet, show the site plan and elevations for the proposed structure. While larger than the existing structure, the proposed new structure is compatible with the structures located in the Oria Neighborhood Design Overlay District. The gable roof forms, lap siding, and front porch all contribute to the compatibility of the new structure. Design details of the new structure will convey that it is new structure to the district so that it will not create a false sense of history for the district. Overall, the size, scale, massing, materials, and setbacks are compatible and within the range of structures in the overlay district. Pages 5 through 11 identify the applicable guidelines and how this project meets these guidelines. One option noted in the application materials is for the new structure to be placed on a slab foundation. The elevation drawings for this option are on page 35, 36, and 37 of your packet information for this agenda item. A structure placed on a slab foundation does not meet the intent of the Oria Neighborhood Design Guidelines. In discussions with building inspectors for the city, an elevated slab that is of sufficient height to convey an elevated structure will have challenges meeting the energy code. Staff has concerns that if a slab foundation is approved, the resulting structure will not appear to be elevated to sufficiently convey a raised foundation. The new structure should be placed on a raised foundation. Staff does not recommend approval of the project with a slab foundation. Staff recommends the Commission find that the project with a raised foundation and not a slab foundation meets the development and design standards of the Oria Neighborhood Design Guidelines for the Oria Neighborhood Design Overlay District. I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you may have.
This is Commissioner Foster. Lynn, are we aware if this owner applicant is been a long-term owner of the property and essentially allowed the property to deteriorate by neglect?
I would have to refer that question to the applicant, who I believe will speak after your questions have been answered by staff.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Are there any other questions for staff?
This is Commissioner Meyer. When was the fire?
It's been, I believe, this is Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Commissioner. I don't have that exact date, but I believe the applicant may have that exact date in their presentation.
Okay. This is Commissioner Buchanan. At this time, if there's no other further questions, I'd like to call the applicant, see if they would like to speak.
It's Paul Werner with Paul Werner Architects. Can you hear me okay? Can't tell. So first couple of things. I'm not sure how long the owner has owned it. It was damaged, as Lynn mentioned, in a fire when the tenants were moving in. I want to say 2 years ago. I think he really had hoped to rebuild it. Fires are just a struggle with insurance companies and what they will pay for and how they will get reimbursed and all those sorts of things. I would say that actually was his preference. At the end of the day, You just can't get enough money out of the insurance companies, my understanding, to make it a viable project. It's just, at the end of the day, his feeling was it needs to be demolished and he needs to build new. There's also always the risk of rebuilding it and missing something. It's a balloon framed house. The last thing he wanted to do was to, do all this renovation and still have issues from the fire. As Lynn mentioned, it is not all original from those early dates. There were several additions put on the house. So we did struggle with this. No right or wrong, or unfortunately that block, there aren't many other structures remaining. They're mostly new. There was another one at the corner that had a fire as well, and it's a brand new duplex. But we feel really good about the design. We think it meets all of the guidelines. Like I said, we do struggle with it, but knowing that the owner, the damage really did come from, the majority of all the damage came from the fire. So that's what got us over the hump on thinking that this is a better plan for the owner. I'm surprised that building inspection, I'm unaware of that there was any other reasoning about the slab. So I did submit some new drawings. As Lynn mentioned, I think on page 33 through 37, that the elevated slab is more of the right term. It is, I wouldn't say the most complicated thing. It is kind of a pain to do that, but at the same token, requiring the entire structure to be on a full basement also seems a little onerous. That it's essentially like a crawl space. The requirement is only to have the first floor 18 inches above the curb. So we feel comfortable about doing that. The energy requirements make it a little bit more difficult, and certainly the requirements to face the foundation in stone add to that. But weighing those complications against the entire structure having a full basement, we feel an elevated slab is a manageable project. We have bid it both ways, so we do see, hoping to get some numbers from general contractors on if, obviously, a basement, we live in Kansas, is a benefit if we can justify it with the cost. So we would look for your approval. We do feel bad about the demolition, but we think right now this is the more manageable project, and we would like you to consider the elevated slab that will look just like the building as if it was on a full basement. That's all I really have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So this is Commissioner Foster. So Paul, you have no idea how long the current owner has owned the property?
I don't know. I'd just be taking a guess, and that's probably not fair. I'm not sure. I apologize.
This is Commissioner Meyer. I just noticed that the Douglas County property records indicate they only go back to 2018 online, and this owner has owned it since then. And I would note that in 2018, the county appraised value was
You're breaking up, Jody.
Yeah.
slow. Can you hear me now?
Right.
It was like 70,000. So I think that fire must have occurred somewhere in there.
It's Paul Werner again. I'm sorry. I thought it was at least 2 years ago. We have been struggling with this for a long time.
And this is Commissioner Meyer again. I guess I'm thinking that I think this owner has.
You're breaking up.
I mean, the county appraised value had it at 200,000, and I think that the difference in 200,000 and 70,000 must have been the fire.
Yeah. They can be slow to catch up. Okay. I don't have any more questions for Paul.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I just want to make sure it does currently have a basement, correct?
Paul, you're muted.
Sorry, this is so hard. It does not have a basement. It has a partial crawl space under maybe a third of it, and it has one of the other additions had a separate crawl space, and the last addition's on a slab. So it's got a little bit of everything.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion if there's no further questions for the applicant.
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. You need to open this up as a public hearing item.
Oh. So this is Commissioner Buchanan. Following applicant's comments, we will open this to public discussion.
Okay.
I see no one and don't see anyone motioning. Kyle, is there anybody in queue to speak?
Kyle Covey with planning. There is no one here.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion amongst yourselves. Can't unmute.
Shoot, this is Commissioner Fry. In looking at the foundation requirements, it requires an elevation of 18 inches of first floor elevation. I don't see where it requires a slab or requires a full basement. It just requires an elevation of the first floor of 18 inches above grade. And I think the applicant's done that.
Agreed. Yeah. I guess I just want to comment on the issue of neglect. This isn't the worst case we've ever seen by far, and maybe it could be some sort of workshop topic sometime. But it would be nice to find a mechanism for consequences for allowing a structure to be neglected. And again, maybe that conversation is best left for when a demolition application has been made, in just due to neglect and not due to a fire. But and this is Chad Foster, Commissioner. So I'm just throw that out there for future consideration, I guess.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I do want to make a comment on the historic patterns of that area and that district. It is more common to have a basement, which is, I thought, interesting that this one does not follow that pattern. But another pattern of historic structures is that they're unique and have these nuances. I think within the design guidelines, yes, you are supposed to have at least an 18-inch elevated plinth for the house to sit on. Looking at the drawings and comparing them, there seems to be about 1.5 foot discrepancy between going with the basement, which you have at like 2'4", and as an elevated platform, it looks like it's only at, 1'2" above grade? Or just meaning that 18 inches instead of going another additional 1.5 foot above that. Did I read that correctly?
Paul Werner, granted, they're the same elevations. So I'd have
These are
to,
just annotated
maybe
weird.
I might have done them too quick, but our intent would be to make it look exactly the same.
This is Commissioner Foster. Yeah. So like on page 32 on the left-hand side of the elevation I'm looking at, it has that 2'4" dimension above grade. And then over on the right-hand side, there's a 1'5" differential between top of basement wall and top of first floor subfloor.
Correct.
So if the elevation doesn't change, is the dimension I'm seeing on the left-hand side of the elevation, is it going to be 2'4" above grade?
We can make it 2'4" above grade.
Okay, so then these drawings, as potentially approved, would be followed. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, this is Commissioner Buchanan. I would like to make a motion that we approve this project as long, in accordance with the staff report, that there does need to be an elevated slab clad in stone.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Could you please, this is Kyle Covey with Planning, could you please clarify who seconded?
Chad Foster. Second.
Okay, Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Irby,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan, aye. Motion passes unanimously and carries forward.
Thank you.
That was Paul Werner.
Sorry. Have a good night.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Moving on to item E3, because item E2 has been deferred. So we're going to look at L19-00573.
This is a landmark. This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. This is a landmark nomination for 715 New York Street to be listed as a landmark on the Lawrence Register of Historic Places. The legal description for the property is New York Street, lots 27 and 29, original town site, Lawrence, Douglas County, Kansas. The structure located at 715 New York Street is being nominated for inclusion in the Lawrence Register of Historic Places. The nomination was submitted by David and Stacey Lamberson, property owners of record. 715 New York Street is not listed in the Register of Historic Kansas Places or the National Register of Historic Places. 715 New York Street, the David Evans House, was constructed in 1883 and is an example of a 5-bay, 4/4 central hall house type and vernacular architecture that was constructed during the historic context associated with the development of Lawrence, the agricultural and manufacturing period, 1874 to 1899, and this is defined by the Historic Resources of Lawrence, Douglas County, Kansas multiple property documentation form. The property is located in an area identified in Living in East Lawrence, an essay for a multiple listings nomination. If you recall, several years ago, there were multiple properties nominated and listed in the Lawrence Register of Historic Places under this context analysis. The context document studies the architectural trends of East Lawrence and identifies different vernacular structure types. It also documents the social and economic trends of the area. The structure at 715 New York Street follows the documented trends identified in the context. The property is being nominated under criteria 1 for its character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the community, county, state, or nation, and criteria 4 for its embodiment of distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style valuable for the study of a period, type, method of construction, or use of indigenous materials. Page 27 of the agenda item for the nomination shows a historic photograph of the structure dated sometime before 1918. Pages 28 through 32 are the photos of the elevations of the proposed structure. Page 28 is the main or east elevation. Page 29 is the north elevation. Page 30 is the rear addition on the north elevation. Page 31 is the south elevation. Page 32 is the south elevation showing the addition. Page 3 of the packet information, which is page 1 of the staff report, gives some biographical information about David Evans. David Evans was born in Pembrokeshire, I hope I said that right, Wales, on October 6, 1833, and immigrated to the United States in 1853. He arrived in Lawrence in 1857. By 1858, Evans had started the Santa Fe Transfer Company. In 1859, he married Mary Edwards, who was also from Wales and who came to Lawrence in 1854. They had 11 children. By 1861, they lived at 723 New York Street. The couple moved to 715 New York Street once the house was completed in 1883. Evans lost most of his money in the 1877 collapse of Simpson Bank. He operated the Santa Fe Transfer Company until his death in 1903. He was a stockholder and director of the Lawrence Gas and Electric Company, a stockholder in the Watkins National Bank, and a trustee for the First Baptist Church at 8th and Kentucky Street for 25 years. Page 4 of 36 of this packet information, which is page 2 of the staff report, includes the architectural summary and significance for the structure. The structure maintains sufficient integrity of design and location. Page 9 of the packet information, which is page 7 of the staff report, identifies that the property is nominated for its character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the community. And the reasoning for this nomination for that criteria is that the East Lawrence neighborhood is identified in the context document Living in East Lawrence, an essay for multiple listings nomination, encompasses approximately 50 city blocks east of Massachusetts Street to Oregon Street and from the Kansas River to East 15th Street. This neighborhood and the structures located therein are valuable as a part of the development of the city of Lawrence, documenting residential land use from the late 19th century and the early 20th century. The East Lawrence neighborhood followed local population, social, economic, and architectural building patterns described in the multiple property documentation form, Historic Resources of Lawrence, Douglas County, Kansas. The vernacular architecture and the cohesive streetscapes of the neighborhood emphasize the commonalities of the diverse populations that settled this area of Lawrence. While the structures in the neighborhood reflect the evolution of vernacular architecture and the incorporation of stylistic details over time, the relationship between the structures based on location, streetscape, building materials, workmanship, mass, and scale create a distinct neighborhood identity that is of value to the study of history for the city of Lawrence. The context describes the neighborhood as a working-class neighborhood, and the history of the people who lived in these vernacular structures is important to the understanding of the growth and development of this community as a whole. Page 10 of the 36 pages for this item number discusses the architectural significance or its embodiment of the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style valuable for the study of a period, type, method of construction, or use of indigenous materials. This is a 4/4 central hall house form with good architectural integrity. The vernacular style is not represented currently on the Lawrence Register of Historic Places. The vernacular style of this structure has the distinguishing characteristics of symmetrical bays, 2 stories, 2 rooms deep, and a central hall. Page 8 and 9 of the packet information, which is page 5 and 6 of the staff report, show the proposed environs for the property. The environs should be divided into 2 areas, one area for the commercial area and one area for the residential area. Staff recommends that the Historic Resources Commission adopt Resolution 2020-01, recommending the nomination of the David Evans House located at 715 New York Street to the Lawrence Register of Historic Places. If the commission adopts this resolution, it will be forwarded to the City Commission with the required report identified in Chapter 22, Section 22-404.2, 1 through 7, and the environs definition. The resolution is included in your packet on pages 35 and 36 of the item number. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
Okay, seeing that there's no questions from the commission, I'd like to ask if the applicant's participating.
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. No, the applicant is not present this evening.
Okay. At this time, I would like to open it up to public comment. Seeing that there is none, I will close that and bring it back to the commission for any further discussion or questions. Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-01 and nominate the structure located at 715 New York Street to be placed onto the local Register of Historic Places.
This is Commissioner David Evans. I second the motion. And to be clear, I'm not related to the applicant, David Evans. He was a couple of years older than I am.
Okay, this is Commissioner Buchanan. I'm going to take roll call. Commissioner Evans.
Yes.
Commissioner Irby.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Fry.
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan. Aye. Passes unanimously and motion carries. I also like to make a motion that we adopt the environs definition as stated in the staff report.
This is Irby, Commissioner. I second.
Okay, this is Commissioner Buchanan. I'll now take roll call. Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer. Maybe. Okay. Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Fry.
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer, was that you with a affirmative?
Yes.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Motion passes unanimously and carries forward. Moving on to, this is Commissioner Buchanan. Moving on to item E4, DR 20-00086 for 1328 Rhode Island Street.
Kyle Kobe with Planning. This is item DR 20-00086, a residential accessory structure at 1328 Rhode Island Street. The applicant is requesting to construct a 1.5-story, approximately 624 square foot accessory structure. The proposed accessory structure will be approximately 24 feet by 26 feet and located in the rear yard adjacent to the alley. The proposed structure will be 22 feet, 2.5 inches tall. The principal structure is 23 feet tall. The first floor of the structure will be used as a garage with an interior staircase leading to the second floor. The second floor plans show a bathroom, small kitchenette, and studio guest bedroom area. The east elevation will have fiber cement siding, insulated metal overhead door facing the alley, a wood-clad egress window on the second floor, and a sun tunnel skylight on the south slope of the gabled roof. The south elevation will have fiber cement siding, insulated metal or fiberglass pedestrian door, small wood-clad window, the south slope of the gabled roof with laminated asphalt composition shingles and 2 sun tunnel skylight features near the peak of the roof. The west elevation will have fiber cement siding, 2 small wood-clad windows on the first floor, a wood-clad egress window on the second floor, and a sun tunnel skylight on the south slope of the gabled roof. The north elevation will have fiber cement siding and the north slope of the gabled roof with laminated asphalt composition shingles. The height of the proposed structure will be less than a foot lower than the principal structure. The 2 structures will be relatively equal in terms of size, scale, and massing. The prominence of the accessory structure is closer to the principal structure than is ideal, but is within the range of other accessory structures located within the district. The proposed gabled roof form is appropriate for the project and is compatible with the existing structure's roof and other roof forms found in the district. The proposed accessory structure is compatible with the principal structure and the character of the district in terms of size, scale, mass, and materials. Staff recommends that in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior standards, the standards of evaluation, the Commission approve the proposed project and find that the proposed project does not damage or destroy any historic property included in the National Register of Historic Places. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Doesn't look like anybody has any questions for you, Kyle. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open it up for the applicant.
Hi, this is Mike Myers with Hernley Associates Architects. I don't really have any comments except we have actually submitted the project for permitting simultaneously. And there was one comment that we're not able to take the door into the garage area directly from the landing at the base of the stair. So we're moving that door to the south exterior wall. So the south facade will now have 2 exterior doors on it, one going up the stairs and one going into the garage. And you'll see that with, or at least Lynn will see that with the permit drawings at the revisions. Only comment.
Does the commission have any additional questions for the applicant? This is Commissioner Buchanan. No. This is Commissioner Buchanan. Seeing that there is no additional questions for the applicant, I'd like to now open this up for public comment. Being that I don't see any and there's none on the docket, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Does anybody have any concerns or issues? Questions about door location? Nobody's moving, nobody's saying anything, so I assume that there are no questions. I did note the height, that it was close, kind of close. If there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion on the table?
This is Commissioner Fry. In accordance with the Secretary of State's Interior Standards, the standards of evaluation, I propose that the Commission approve the proposed project and find that the proposed project does not damage or destroy any historic property included in this Register of Historic Places.
This is Commissioner Evans, second.
Okay, this is Commissioner Buchanan. I will now take roll call. Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Irby,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan, aye. Motion passes unanimously and carries forward. We will now move on to item E5, DR 20-00088, 10,009 New York.
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator for the city. This is 1009 New York Street. The applicant proposes to construct a second-story addition on the structure. The 307 square foot new addition will be placed on the western side of the structure. The roof of the addition will be a standing seam metal shed roof that attaches to the existing structure at the peak of the north to south gable roof. The addition will be sheathed with fiber cement panels with cedar battens. There is no change to the footprint of the structure. Elevation drawings are located on page 20 of 24 in the agenda item packet information. The proposed project is located in the environs of the German Methodist Episcopal Church at 1000 New York Street, the William Watts House at 946 Connecticut Street, and the August Wall House at 1004 Connecticut Street. The project location and its associated environs for the listed properties is located on pages 7 to 11 in the agenda item packet. Standard 9 and Section 22-505 of Chapter 22 applies to this project. Standard 9 identifies that an addition should be compatible with the size, scale, color, material, and character of the property, neighborhood, or environs. In addition to review by Section 22-505, the proposed alterations in new construction should be reviewed using the design criteria in Section 22-506.1. These illustrative design criteria help to promote the standards set forth in Section 22-505. Height, scale, massing, directional expression, setbacks, platform, roof shape, rhythm of openings, and imitation of style should all be considered in the review for a certificate of appropriateness. Pages 4 and 5 of the agenda item packet, which is page 2 and 3 of the staff report, include a discussion of how this project meets the standards and guidelines of Chapter 22. The proposed project to install a metal roof on the existing addition to the proposes to install a metal roof on the existing addition to the structure. Staff does not recommend this change. The addition is not dated, however, it may have achieved historic significance in its own right. The material on this addition should not be altered. If the metal roof is used for the proposed new addition, it should be 12-inch to 16-inch panels with a maximum 1-inch seam that is crimped and not rounded. The color should not be reflective and should be gray or silver metal tone. The upper story window on the south elevation is proposed to be changed to a casement window for egress purposes. The new window should have a simulated center crossbar to be reflective of the 1/1 windows in the historic structure. Overall, the proposed addition is compatible with the existing structure and the environs of the listed properties as an environs review. It should be noted, however, that this addition may not be appropriate for a listed property. Staff is of the opinion that the project as proposed meets the intent of Chapter 22 and the environs definitions for the German Methodist Episcopal Church, the William Watts House, and the August Wall House. Staff recommends approval of the certificate of appropriateness. I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you might have.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Does any of the commissioner members have any questions? Did not look like it. Okay, so at this time, I would like to ask if the applicant would like to say anything.
This is Mike Myers with Hernley Associates Architects. My only comment, well, two comments. We don't have any issues with the stipulations on the metal roof as far as the spacing and color and all that. I would mention that there were some comments. I don't think it was part of the conditions for approval, but the comments about the existing roof that we were wanting to change to metal down on the back addition to the house. That roof, the roofing material that's on there is not appropriate actually for the pitch. It's the current roof slope is 2¼ inches per foot, and really you should never go lower than about 3, maybe 2.5. To use the asphalt shingles that are on there now. So I was hoping to improve that to be able to just provide the owners with a better material for that low slope. And I felt it was more appropriate to use the same material that we're using on the addition, which also has a low slope roof. Those are my only comments.
This is Commissioner Foster. Wasn't one of the, and I agree with what you just said, it's an awfully low slope for an asphalt shingle. What's your thought on the window style? The addition is showing casements. The original structure is double hung. The addition is contrasting with the original, with the cladding material. What's your thoughts on windows?
Mike Myers, you're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't know that I really have a particular requirement for the casements. I think that was just a decision we made with the owners because you get a wider opening with the casement. You can draw air in better. Since it was an addition, we were planning on putting a false divider on the one that we are putting in for the replacement for the egress window, but the ones on the back, since that was, it's going to be obviously an addition, I didn't feel it was all that important to match the style of the windows on the front of the house sides.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. On the south elevation that is of the addition that's lacking any kind of fenestration, I noticed on the floor plan on the left, it's a proposed closet. Is there any way to get any kind of fenestration added to that? And it's not always a bad thing to have some natural light in your closet.
It could be done. We would be cutting down on the usable space. The reason for the closet. I mean, we are putting natural light in the closet already on the west elevation. So really that was the one nice long wall where we could have a proper rod shelf. And so we just opted to not put one on the south. The other thing is south light is a lot more difficult to control on, for the space that you're maybe trying to protect your clothes from UV. I did get a text in that if it was an issue for anyone, the double hung versus casement issue on the west side is not anything that we're firm on. If anyone's taking issue with that.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I would suggest going with the double hung because that's more consistent with the patterns of the neighborhood, but I also understand this is the addition and you're trying to differentiate. So just other commissioners that have an opinion, I think it would be good to hear it.
That was my thought. Let it, since the cladding is different, it's okay for the windows to be different too.
Commissioner Buchanan, I agree. If you're going to go for it, you might as well just go for it.
Yeah, sorry, that was Commissioner Foster there.
Great. If there's no other, this is Commissioner Buchanan. If there's no other questions for the applicant, I would like to open this up for public comment.
Nothing for me.
I don't see anybody else motioning, and I don't see anybody on the docket, so I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. There's no further discussion. This is Commissioner Buchanan. There's no further discussion or questions. I would be open to a motion. Okay, I will make a motion. This is Commissioner Buchanan. I make a motion that we approve the project in accordance with Chapter 22 of the City Code with the standards of evaluation, and find the proposed project will not significantly encroach on, damage, or destroy the landmarks or their environs, and issue the certificate of appropriateness for the proposed project, being that the metal roof should be 12 to 16-inch panels with a maximum 1-inch seam that is crimped and not rounded, and the color should be non-reflective shades of gray or silver metal tone.
This is Commissioner Fry. I would second that motion.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Buchanan. I'll now roll call. Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Irby?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan, aye. Passes unanimously. Motion carries forward.
Thank you.
That was Mike Myers. This is Commissioner Buchanan. Moving on to item E6, DR 200095 for 714 Vermont Street.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator for the city. This is 714 Vermont Street. It is a new addition. It's a certificate of appropriateness review and a downtown design guidelines review. It was submitted by Paul Werner Architects for Darren Krish, for Vermont Street Garage LLC, the property owner of record. The applicant proposes to construct a 1,726 square foot addition to the northwest corner of the structure located at 714 Vermont Street. The addition will attach to the existing structure on the east and south elevations of the new structure, filling in the current vacant portion of the lot. The new addition will be 40.4 feet wide from north to south and 47 feet deep from west to east. The height of the structure from grade to the top of the cornice will be 47 feet. The majority of the structure will be clad with insulated metal panels, and the roof will be metal. The project also includes the rehabilitation of the existing steel windows. Proposed elevations for the addition are located on pages 52 and 53 of the agenda item in the packet. The applicant has also provided renderings of the proposed addition located on pages 40 to 45 of the packet information for this item. The property is located in the environs of the Josiah Miller Building, also known as Miller's Hall, at 723 Massachusetts Street, and the House Building at 729 Massachusetts Street. Standard 9 of Chapter 22 applies to the project. The property is also located in the Downtown Conservation Overlay District and is subject to the Downtown Design Guidelines. As noted in the staff report of page 3 of the report, this is page 5 of the packet information, the 700 block of Vermont Street is unique for the environs of the listed properties. The 700 block of Vermont Street did not develop like the 700 block of Massachusetts Street, with strong commercial party wall systems associated with downtown and the listed properties. Several lots on the east side of the block never developed until the 1947 construction of 714 Vermont. The subject property is the oldest extant building in the block. The Fire Station No. 1 building was constructed in 1951. and the Lawrence Public Library was constructed in 1972 with a significant remodel in 2010. The associated parking garage was also constructed in 2010. The building to the south of 714 Vermont Street was constructed in the 1980s. Existing structures in the block have no relationship to each other or to the listed properties. The scale and mass of the buildings are all different. The heights of the buildings vary, but the subject property, which is 23 feet, 9.5 inches tall according to the application, and the building to the south, which is 36 feet, are two-story structures. The library on the west side of the block is a horizontal structure that appears as one story. It's approximately 22 feet, 10 inches. The parking garage on the west side of the block and the communications tower directly adjacent to the subject property are approximately 48 feet to the top of the stair tower and 180 feet respectively. The approximate height of these buildings was provided by the applicant. The height of the proposed addition is 47 feet tall. This is a similar in height to the stair tower of the parking garage on the west side of the block. The Eldridge Hotel on Massachusetts Street across the alley from the subject property is approximately 58 feet 9 inches tall, with the associated stair tower at 67 feet 5 inches tall. Due to the change in grade between Vermont Street and Massachusetts Street, this height may appear greater than the actual height of the structure. While the proposed addition for 714 Vermont Street may be within the range of heights in the area, it is significantly taller than the existing historic structure. For the review of a certificate of appropriateness, the guideline for heights in the environs is associated with the height as it's related to adjacent structures. The height of the addition is a concern for staff. Page 6 of 61 shows the graphic for height review in Chapter 22. The proposed addition is also out of scale due to the height of the structure. The existing communications tower to the south is also out of scale with the existing structure and other structures in the block. Although it's similar in height, the parking garage is more in scale with the 1- and 2-story structures in the block due to the visual separation of the height as expressed by levels or floors of the structure. The scale of the structure is not compatible with the scale of the structures in the environs of the listed properties. While the overall scale of the addition is out of scale with existing historic structures and the majority of structures in the environs, the design does promote a pedestrian scale at the base of the addition by utilizing a partial storefront system. The planter and blank wall do not add to this pedestrian scale. Instead, they accentuate the height and the mass of the addition. Additional fenestration on this elevation at the ground level could increase the pedestrian scale of the addition. Page 7 in the item information shows the guideline in Chapter 22 that relates to scale. Although the height and scale of the new addition are not compatible with the structures and the environs of the listed properties, the overall mass of the addition is less of an issue for staff. The small footprint of the addition reduces the overall mass of the addition. However, the 10-foot tall brick wall on the west and north elevations creates a pedestrian level mass that is not compatible with the environs. These walls, while grounding the addition and creating a base for the addition, accentuate the mass. Additional fenestration on the ground level could help alleviate the impact of the perceived mass of the structure. The proposed structure is not compatible with the environs and the listed properties in the rhythm of openings. The solid metal panel walls have no fenestration. Fenestration on the upper levels of structures is character-defining element of structures in the environs of the listed property and the listed properties. The building to the south does not have upper floor fenestration. The library has portions of solid wall with breaks for windows and windows on the corner. The proposed addition will have a corner element that provides clear glazing for the structure. The directional expression for the structures in the environs of the listed properties is that all the structures face the primary streets, which are Massachusetts Street and Vermont Street. The new addition does not have directional expression due to its lack of entrance on the structure. The storefront on a portion of the west elevation does help to create a sense of the west elevation as the front of the addition. The brick wall on this elevation detracts from this sense of place. Additional fenestration on the ground level of the addition would help to increase the directional expression of the west facade as the primary facade. The majority of setbacks in the environs on Massachusetts Street are 0 setbacks. The setbacks on Vermont Street are varied. The existing historic structure does not meet the setback patterns of Massachusetts Street because it is a standalone building. The new addition will complement the setbacks of the existing structure and will be within the range of setbacks for Vermont Street. Roofs in the environs of listed properties are flat. The proposed addition will have a slightly sloped roof. The submitted drawings do not indicate the roof will be seen on the north, south, or west elevations. The slope of the roof may be due to the drainage for the structure. A flat roof would be more appropriate for the environs. Some of the materials proposed for the addition are compatible with the listed properties. Brick, although buff color is not typical for the environs, is a material found on the listed properties. The aluminum storefront system is also typical for the environs. The only concern for staff is the proposed use of insulated metal panels. This is not a material that is found in the environs of the listed properties, nor is it typical for properties in the downtown area, although it has been used for new construction on New Hampshire Street. The product information provided by the applicant says the appearance of the metal panels will be similar to stucco. Stucco would be an acceptable material. There is a significant concern that the actual appearance will not represent stucco, but will simply be a flat material. There is also significant concern about the insulation of the metal panels. Metal panels would need to be installed to give clean seams and lines, unlike some of the metal panels that have been used in structures on New Hampshire Street. The use of other materials for the upper portion of the addition, including more glass, should be considered. Overall, the height and scale of the addition poses the greatest challenge for the proposed project. The height of the addition is necessary for the proposed use of rock climbing wall on the interior of the addition. It is possible to address several of the other staff's concerns by design refinement. The project is also subject to review under the downtown design guidelines. Overall, the proposed project meets several of the downtown design guidelines, and these are all listed in your staff report. Guidelines that are concerned for staff include guidelines 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3 that are guidelines that relate to height. Because of the design and location of the proposed addition, the addition is a vacant portion of the lot, creates a similar visual effect of a new building. While new infill construction will be multi-story in height, it will be taller than the structure around it, with the exception of the communication tower to the south and possibly the Eldridge Hotel across the alley. The story-to-story height is not appropriate because the addition is one large open space with no differentiation on the exterior to show story-to-story height. The addition is taller than the prevailing heights of the nearby buildings. The addition varies significantly in height from the existing structure. Section 8 of the guidelines speak to additions. Guideline 8.1 identifies that the size and scale of additions shall not visually overpower historic buildings. The addition does not meet this guideline. The height of the addition overpowers the existing historic structure. Guideline 8.5 says that additions should be located as inconspicuously as possible to the rear or on the least character-defining elevation of historic buildings. The project does not meet this guideline. It is on the front of the building and highly visible from all public rights-of-way. Guideline 8.9 says that additions should be designed so that they are compatible with the existing building and mass, materials, color, proportion, and spacing of windows and doors. Design motifs should be taken from the existing building or compatible contemporary design introduced. The addition does not meet this guideline. It is not compatible with the existing building in mass, materials, proportion, or spacing of windows. It is a contemporary design, and the project may be able to better meet this guideline with design refinement. Utilization of more glass may be a design refinement to consider. Guideline 8.10 is that it is not appropriate to construct an addition that is taller than the original building. The addition does not meet this guideline. It is taller than the original building, including the two-story portion of the structure. Section 10 of the guidelines speaks to materials. Guideline 10.3 states that while traditional buildings materials such as brick, stone, terracotta, stucco are the preferred building materials for buildings fronting New Hampshire and Vermont Street or numbered streets, consideration will be given to other materials. Consideration may be given to the metal panels. Significant attention should be given to the quality, design, panel dimensions, attachment method, and color. Additional glass should be considered. Design refinement may be able to help this proposal better meet this guideline. Guideline 10.4 says that materials should be compatible between storefronts of street-level facades and upper levels. The glass in the addition is compatible with the existing display windows. The remaining materials, the metal panels, may not be compatible. A material that is glass or glass-like may be more compatible. Design refinement may help the project better meet this guideline. Section 11 includes guidelines for storefronts. 11.6 says that storefronts shall be designed to reflect the traditional pattern of containment. The storefront shall be bounded by the enframing storefront cornice and piers on the side and the sidewalk on the bottom. The existing structure does not reflect a three-part storefront system. It does have a pattern for this type of architectural style. The proposed addition does not reflect the historic display window system of the existing historic structure. The brick wall portion of the structure does not reflect a ground floor design for this architectural style. There should be some fenestration on the brick portion of the wall. Design refinement can help the addition better meet the intent of this guideline. Guideline 11.10 says that storefronts shall be pedestrian-oriented and consist primarily of transparent glass. Most storefronts in downtown Lawrence contain 65% to 80% glass. Storefront design shall reflect this glass to other building material ratio. The project partially meets this guideline. The ground level of the addition is pedestrian-oriented but does not consist primarily of transparent glass. Additional fenestration on the brick wall portion of the west elevation could help the design better meet this guideline. Guideline 12.4, it speaks to maintaining the pattern created by upper story windows and their vertical horizontal alignment. The project meets this guideline for the historic structure. The new addition, however, does not meet this guideline. Design refinement, possibly the inclusion of more glass, could help the addition better meet this guideline. Guideline 12.8 for upper story facade elements says that upper story facade elements should reflect the existing window to wall surface ratios, typically 20 to 40% glass to wall. The new addition does not meet this guideline. The application shows what is labeled as a shade structure on the west elevation. This was originally proposed as a large blade sign that was taller than the addition. Guideline 18.2 for signs states that the primary focus of signs in downtown Lawrence shall be pedestrian-oriented in size, scale, and placement, and shall not be designated primarily to attract the notice of vehicular traffic. While no sign is proposed with the current design, it should be noted that a sign of this type would not be pedestrian-oriented. The blade detail should be removed or a designation made that this will not be for proposed signage in the future. Overall, the proposed project meets several of the downtown design guidelines. Typically, the use of the structure is not a consideration for the Historic Resources Commission. However, the design of the addition is directly related to the interior use of the addition. The use for the addition and the historic structure is compatible with the uses in the overlay district and will be a good development for the downtown area. The height and the lack of fenestration on the ground level of the west facade are concern for staff. The materials for the upper portion of the structure may also not be compatible with the downtown overlay district. Staff is of the opinion that design refinement can help the project better meet some of the guidelines. However, due to the use of the structure, the applicant has indicated that height can't be reduced. The proposed project would not meet the guidelines for height and scale. Staff recommends the Commission refer the project to the Architectural Review Committee to allow for the applicant to work with the ARC on design refinement that will allow the project to better meet the design standards and guidelines while meeting the applicant's goals. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. If there's no additional questions for the staff, I would like to ask the applicant to speak.
Hi, this is Letitia Cole. I'm with Paul Werner Architects. I just wanted to thank staff for a nice, thorough report. There was lots of good information in there. I did write about the purpose of the addition and the reason for the proposed height in the application. So I'm not going to review that, but if anyone has questions about that, we can talk about that. But I would like to start out by sort of explaining a little bit more about the interior of the addition, as we didn't have, at the time, we didn't have a plan for those, like the layout of the climbing walls in there. So right now, there's a big overhead door that was originally used for entrance into the repair section of the building originally. And so that will be the entrance from the big climbing gym area into this taller addition. And the entire addition is just one room, and it will be lined, the entire perimeter will be lined with climbing walls from floor to ceiling to try to get as much square footage of climbing wall as we can out of that. Because really this addition adds the height of the walls that we can't get in the existing building that's required. So the only part that won't have climbing walls all the way around it are that entrance to the existing facility and then the corner fenestration that we have on the south or on the northwest corner there, where we have the vertical windows. So that's a little bit more about what the interior is like. And then, so in the staff report, it was pointed out that the 700 block of Vermont is unique for the environs of the downtown area. We totally agree. There are no buildings in this block that really meet the downtown design guidelines, including this property in its original built state. Our building is directly adjacent to what I think is the tallest structure in all of Lawrence, at least from the ground up at 180 feet. It's 20 feet away from our building on the other side from the addition. And while we recognize that's obviously not an approved structure and it was built well before there was design guidelines and reviews, it is still there and we're right next to it. And next to that, on the other side of that, is the AT&T building, which is also taller than our existing building at about 36 feet. And then across the street, of course, the library, the parking garage, the senior center, and the fire station. The garage tower is almost the exact same height as the addition we're proposing. And similarly, it doesn't have an expression of floors due to that horizontal band of metal panels that surrounds the whole structure. Because of course, in our addition, we don't have any floors actually either. It's just one big tall volume for climbing. And we understand that the guidelines refer to the height as related to adjacent structures. And the height of the adjacent structures in this block, we feel are all well within the scale of the proposed height of this addition. We feel that this block and this area of the downtown is the perfect location to locate the building of this height and as an addition, which is necessary for the use of as a climbing gym. So another Another comment was that the addition is out of scale with the surrounding buildings in the subject building. If you look at the varying heights of the existing buildings, or of our existing building, the showroom level, the piece that kind of pops out in the middle, the storefront, is about 12 feet, and it has that horizontal canopy at about 10. The second story is at 21 feet, and then the large volume in the back is about 24 feet. And how those heights and those volumes work together, we feel that the scale of our addition sort of fits into that. It's all it's a very stepping building. It steps back and forward, up and down. And so from Vermont Street, there are already varying heights and volumes present in this standalone type building that we have, unlike other buildings along Mass that give a unifying presence of scale to each other along the block. In terms of the scale of the other buildings in the block, I'm not sure there is a precedence to follow for the scale, so I don't know. The staff report also comments about adding more fenestration to the building at grade and on what might be considered a second floor level, although we actually, we don't have a second floor, but I know that's just part of the design guidelines. We are certainly willing to discuss this, either today or further with the ARC about what are some possibilities, offer up some alternative designs to include more fenestration. But I guess at this point, unless we do something sort of different, they might be, I guess you'd call them like fake windows, because technically they would be looking at the backside of a climbing wall and all the structure, the supporting structure for that. Unless we were to, I don't know. I guess there's some options there maybe, but right now that's what they would do. And then any additional windows, so they would be looking at the backside. We do feel like a climbing gym is a great addition to the Lawrence downtown community, and that this building has been vacant for quite a while, and it's sort of a difficult building to find a use for. It's an odd duck, I guess, for downtown. But we kind of feel like the climbing gym is a great fit for this sort of non-traditional block. So I guess just my last statements, I feel like there's 3 main items that we should kind of talk about. One is the height, obviously. And so we'd really appreciate any feedback that you guys have on if you feel like this height is appropriate, and if not, what you think is an appropriate height. So we kind of have something to bounce back and forth. And then second, the material. How do you feel about the panels? Is it texture? Is it joints? Is it the material itself? Kind of like a little bit of feedback on that. And then, of course, fenestration. So I am happy to answer any questions you have. And then Darren Clift is also on here as the owner, and he's happy to answer any questions too. Thanks.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Would the owner like to say anything before I open this to public comment?
No, I don't have any, let's see, I don't have, can you guys see me on there?
Yeah, but can you please state your name before you speak?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Darren Klisch. I'll be the owner, operator of the climbing gym. So I think everything was well stated. And I think Letitia's points were very appropriate. I think what is important to understand about the climbing gym investment, it's going to be well over in excess of $2 million. And a full service climbing gym has sort of a couple of different levels, one being more bouldering, where there's no harness or support and you fall on mats, and that fits very well in the main room. But climbers need to get height, and so typically those heights are between 35 to 40 feet. For example, in the Olympics, they'll have a speed wall that goes up to 45 feet as a standard height. And as an investment, I can't build half or 2/3 of the gym because it leaves an opportunity for someone else to build a brand new gym with the height option on the west side or somewhere else. And so I really don't feel like I can make this investment in the community in this climbing gym if we don't have a comprehensive gym plan in place. So it is a critical element or a critical aspect.
This is Commissioner Meyer. Dr. Klisch, I was just curious, when you bought the property, you must have known there would be concerns, historic resource concerns. So, you know, what was the thinking of buying this and dealing with that as opposed to, say, building it on the west side?
Well, we had looked at properties for quite a while. And when this building came up, it was sort of a unique opportunity, and that the Fritzels were willing to sell at that time, which is somewhat unusual. I thought location was wonderful because it's going to provide a great, more of a community feel, from my standpoint, more centralized, more of a destination. But you know, I guess I'm an oncologist, so I'm an optimist, and I felt like, you know, why wouldn't someone see the value in this? I'm not a developer. I don't need a climbing gym. This is not what I do, but I feel like it's a fantastic thing that Lawrence desperately needs. And and so for a whole bunch of reasons, I thought this was the right building. And I guess with my optimism, I assumed this would be a no-brainer. Clearly, I've never gone through the HRC process, or I might have never gone through this. But also there was on the contract, when we made the proposal, there was a timeline. And so we did, I didn't have the opportunity to submit this through the HRC application to meet that timeline. So there was a bit of, I guess, assumption. So yeah, I mean, I could be faulted in that regard.
I'm not trying to blame you. I was just curious.
Okay, there's Jody Meyer speaking to the owner, Mr. Klisch. This is Brenda Buchanan.
This is Commissioner Foster. I have a question. Can the tall climbing equipment be in the center of a space and people circulate around it, or does it need to be against the perimeter walls? I'm thinking of REI in Denver.
Yeah, this is my first venture into designing and constructing a climbing gym. So absolutely, one could do that. But in terms of the square footage of surface area, it would significantly limit the amount of lines or ropes that would be available.
Okay.
So it would. I guess if you had a lot like an REI where you have shelves full of commercial stuff, that's actually a great fit. We're not looking to make a lot of commercial. You know what I mean? We're just want to maximize surface area.
Sure.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. If you were to build a wall in the center, though, you would actually be increasing your surface area because you'd be adding additional walls to create a surface to climb on.
This is Darren Klisch. So I think you're asking, I think there's a point we have to determine. You're saying in addition to the perimeter, the 40 by approximately 40 footprint, the walls will come in for the structure by over a meter. And then in addition to that, the walls are not all perfectly vertical. Many of them have a 5, 10, 15 degree slope. And so when someone comes down from 30, 35 feet, they'll come down into the center walkway. Not quite, but that's as tight as it can be. And so you couldn't add additional, unless you made everything perfectly vertical, but that's far from ideal. Does that make sense? It's just a limitation on space.
It does. This is Commissioner Buchanan. Thank you for clarifying that. Is there any other questions to the applicant? No, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Kyle, was there public? Nope, it's still empty.
This is Kyle Covey with Planning. I see nobody here ready to make public comment.
Buchanan again, just making sure nobody showed up randomly. Okay, nobody's on the docket, so I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for a discussion.
This is Commissioner Evans. This is really interesting, and I think you all know, and a lot of you were part of it, we made a big effort to comply with the downtown guidelines. And this is a unique situation. So it is really sort of a conundrum to me. The library probably doesn't meet the downtown design guidelines. I don't know about the garage. Having said all of that, I, being on the Architectural Review Committee, am willing to look at it. I don't know if I particularly agree with every item the staff has made. However, we've, I think, done a pretty good job on the ARC working through this and listening to all kinds of opinions among ourselves as well as the applicant. So I think it's worth the effort to go to the Architectural Review Committee.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I also, being on the ARC, agree that I think it would behoove all of us to put this in front of the ARC and see what we can put our heads together and come up with. I would like to ask the other commissioners if there are items that are of more concern than others for the ARC to work on that you would like to see us focus on.
This is Commissioner Foster. As the third ARC member, I agree with what Commissioner Evans said. It is always helpful, where Brenda was going, to get feedback from the remaining commissioners, so that we can work on behalf of the larger group, because you get the 3 architecture nerds in a room, and we may sort of disagree considerably with the staff report, and we've known to become sort of quite liberal on certain issues considering situations. And if the broader group isn't sort of thinking that way, then sort of it helps for us to know that. I mean, I guess I always think it's helpful to, as an ARC member, sort of to state what path I might go down, just to try to elicit to see if there's concurrence, kind of, or horror, I suppose. Yeah, for where I would want to focus my efforts, I guess, is more on the skin. I always worry about precedents and future projects, and I think about the Elbridge Hotel expansion that we looked at once or twice, and would never have allowed metal panel on the primary facade, let alone a large swath of it, without fenestration. But again, that was those were proposed additions to a very historic building of a certain era, and this is an addition to a very different building of a more modern design, so that allows, I think, a lot more latitude. But it's always sort of good to prepare ourselves for the next project that comes along and say, hey, you allowed 4 stories of flat metal panel downtown, I want to do that too. So I don't know, that's sort of my thoughts, and yes, definitely look forward to hearing from any of the other commission members on their initial reactions and what sort of marching orders they would like to give the ARC.
I have a logistical issue in this. Can we really have Architectural Review Committee in person? Because I don't think it's the kind of thing that we can do like we're doing right now.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I agree with you that I don't think we can do it digitally, but I do think we can wear hoop skirts and stay 6 feet apart.
This is Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Commissioner, Administrator, sorry. we would likely need to do it via Zoom or some other digital form of communication. I think we can do that with screen sharing, and we have the ability to look at some types of ways to circle things on a page, for lack of a better word, and have conversations about materials and fenestration. I think we can do it in a digital meeting. I think it will be a little more challenging than sitting down at a table with a red marker, but I certainly think it's something that we can do.
I'm skeptical, but I'm willing to try. But I think it's really important that the applicant provides us with material that we can do what you just talked about, right? I mean, we have some of the material, and I think it behooves the applicant to also take into account the discussions we've been having, and whether or not, if they bring things to us, they may address some ideas relative to the kinds of things we've been talking about.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Is there a middle compromise as to those who feel they could be in a room and clearly keep a proper social distance? Those get together, and those who feel that they can't are the ones who join by a digital platform that is not Zoom, something more like WebEx that allows a live interaction between screens and content.
We can share screens on this, but I'm going to defer to Lynn on what's the rule for public meetings. You know, can we or can we not? I'm certainly willing, but if the city is saying, no, we don't do that anymore, or at least not right now.
Yeah, and I think we ought to do it all the same way, instead of some that are some there and a couple are there, and then some are on whatever technology we might have. I don't think that works. I think we need to all be in the same environment. And if that's digital, like Zoom or whatever, I don't know all these things, but so be it. And we could slog through it, but we're all together in the same format.
Yeah.
And I apologize. It was Commissioner Foster earlier, and thank you, Commissioner Evans.
Lynn Braddock Zollner,
We can hold up. We can do this kind of stuff. I don't know, holding up.
Actually, this is Buchanan. That actually doesn't work when you have a background like that.
All right, okay, we'll turn the background on.
Yeah, it's kind
But
of.
we can share screens.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator for the city. I think the best course of action would be to schedule a Zoom meeting or some other format similar. We can share our screens. I think the applicant can work with staff before the meeting and have some ideas for you to make the discussion perhaps go a little bit more easily. But I do think it's something that as the city we would like to see do as a virtual meeting rather than an in-person meeting.
This is Commissioner Jody Meyer, and I'm not going to get in the weeds with the ARC members about how they do it, but I will say I think it should go to the ARC. I think there's really two issues associated with the project, one of which is the height, which based on the proposed use, I'm not sure you can get around that, and then is all the other. And I think because I'm an attorney and I always think about precedents for other projects and how many standards and guidelines that this raises as concerns, I would like to see it go to the ARC, because what I don't want to see is someone else buys a property because they want to use it as a particular use, and then says, hey, they did it and they didn't meet all the guidelines and they ended up, building the height up. I mean, this comes up a lot. So, I would like to see it go to the ARC just to work on the other things. We could have a conversation about height if somebody wants it later, but I think that those refinements should be discussed.
This is Kelly Irby, Commissioner, and I agree. While I am concerned about precedent in this case because a variety of things, but the other buildings in the area makes me slightly less concerned about the height. I'm more concerned here about the fenestration and the building materials. And so those are the elements that I'd like to see the ARC address.
This is Commissioner Fry. I agree with the materials. If they could look at that in the fenestration, I think they could make some dramatic improvements.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Is there any further comment related to if this is sent to ARC, what ARC is supposed to focus on, or otherwise? Okay, seeing that there's nobody kind of moving to jump at anything, I make a motion that we send this item to the ARC to look at the items spelled out by the staff report, but most specifically the skin, the fenestration, and the setbacks.
I would second that. This is Commissioner Fry.
Okay, this is Commissioner Buchanan. I'm going to now take roll call. Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Commissioner Irby?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Foster?
Aye.
Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Buchanan, aye. Motion passes unanimously and carries forward.
I have one other question.
This is Dave Evans.
Commissioner Evans, what we've done in the past, Lynn, you have put forward a date to do this. I don't know if you want to do that at this time.
This is
Or when do
Lynn.
you think this would be scheduled?
This is Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. What I'd like to do, since we will be a little bit challenged, I think, with how to do the meeting, is I'd like a little time to work with the applicant on their schedule and then come up with some times and work with the ARC members so that we can all have a convenient time that would allow us the amount of time that we need to look at the project.
Makes sense. Most of the things you say make sense, so.
This is Darren Klisch speaking. So I assume that I don't know if it's appropriate for me to ask a question, but so are we thinking maybe 2 weeks, or is there a kind of like a ballpark estimate of when that we think that might happen?
This is Commissioner Buchanan, and I guess I retroactively opened public comment.
Sorry.
This is Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. We usually try to have that ARC meeting within 2 to 3 weeks of this meeting. I don't want to say it'll be exactly 2 weeks because we will have to do some scheduling with folks, but certainly we would do it before the next HRC meeting.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. We will be advised as when this is going to be scheduled via email. And we can move on to miscellaneous items. Are there any miscellaneous items?
Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. I have no miscellaneous items for you this evening.
Adjournment. Thank you, everybody, for your patience, and everybody stay well. Stay safe and well, please.
Everybody be well.
Bye. Have a good night.
Thanks, Lynn and Kyle. You did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your patience.
All right.
End the meeting.
Oh, and Lynn, yes, we can meet after the end of the month.
I'll email you.